Hello, my dear friends. If today's joke brings a smile to your lovely face, why not hit that subscribe button? It's a small click that guarantees more laughs in your day. The manager hired a new secretary. She was young, sweet, and polite. One day, while taking dictation, she noticed his fly was open. While leaving the room, she courteously said, "Oh, sir, did you know that your barracks door is open?" He did not understand her remark, but later on he happened to look down and see that his zipper was open. He decided to have some fun with his new employee. Calling her in, he asked, "By the way, Miss Jones, when you saw my barracks door open this morning, did you also see a soldier standing at attention?" The secretary, who was quite witty, replied, "Well, no, sir. All I saw was a little, disabled veteran sitting on 2 duffel bags." A man and woman are going at it. When they hear a car out front, the woman quickly says, "Hurry, out the window. It's my husband." Frightened, the man grabs his jocks and starts trying to get them on whilst climbing out the window. Suddenly, he turns around and states, "Hang on, I'm your husband. Why would you do that to me?" To which she responds, "Why did you try to run?" A man with a Great Dane and a man with a Chihuahua go to a bar, but it says, "No pets allowed." One man says to the other, "How will we bring our dogs inside?" The second man gives the first a pair of very dark sunglasses and says, "Do what I do." He goes inside and the manager says, "Sorry, no pets allowed." The man says, "You don't understand. This is my guide dog." "A Great Dane, really?" says the manager. "Yeah, they just got them into service. He's great at protecting me and his sense of smell allows me to easily find my way around the city." The manager decides to let him in. The man with the Chihuahua was watching carefully and said, "How hard can this be?" So he puts on his sunglasses and goes to the bar. The manager sees him and says once again, "Sorry, sir, no pets allowed." "You don't understand, this is my guide dog." "A Chihuahua? A Chihuahua? They gave me a Chihuahua." A man lays sprawled across 3 entire seats at a posh theatre. Before the show has even started, an usher walks by and notices the man. "Sir, you're only allowed 1 seat. Can you please sit up?" The man groans but stays where he is. The usher, becoming impatient with the man, says, "Sir, if you don't get up, I will need to get my manager involved." Again, the man just groans, which infuriates the usher as he marches off to get the manager. In a few moments, he returns with the manager, and they both repeatedly attempt to move him, but with no success. It was at this point that the manager calls the police. Moments later, a police officer arrives and approaches the man. "All right, buddy, what's your name?" "Sam," the man moans. "And where are you from, Sam?" With pain in his voice, Sam replied, "The balcony." A project manager is floating about 30 feet off the ground in a balloon. He spots a man on the ground and calls out, "Man in balloon. Where am I?" Man of the ground. "You're 30 feet off the ground in a balloon." Man in balloon. "You must be a programmer." Man of ground. "How did you know?" Man in balloon. "All the information you've given me is accurate, but completely useless." Man of ground. "You must be a project manager." Man in balloon, "How did you know?" Man of ground. "You don't know where you are, you don't know how to get where you're going, and somehow it's become my fault." 2 old men decide they are close to their last days and decide to have a last night on the town. After a few drinks, they end up at the local brothel. The madam takes one look at the 2 old geezers and whispers to her manager, "Go up to the first 2 bedrooms and put an inflated doll in each bed. These 2 are so old and drunk that I'm not wasting 2 of my girls on them. They won't know the difference." The manager does as he is told, and the 2 old men go upstairs and take care of their business. As they are walking home, the first man says, "You know, I think my girl was dead." "Dead," says his friend. "Why do you say that?" "Well, she never moved or made a sound all the time I was loving her." His friend says, Could be worse. I think mine was a witch. A witch? Why the hell would you say that? Well, I was making love to her, kissing her on the neck, and I gave her a little bite. Then she farted and flew out the window, took my teeth with her. A dog sees a now hiring poster outside of a computer store. The poster reads, must be able to type, must be able to program, and must be bilingual. We are an equal opportunity employer. The dog takes the poster in his mouth and walks in. The manager spots the dog and decides to humour it, pulling up a chair and a computer with a word processor. All right, if you want to work here, you need to first write a letter. And leaves the room. 30 minutes later, he comes back in, and the dog has typed out a completely error-free letter. Well, I'll be. This is a smart dog. But can he program? He asks himself. 20 minutes pass and the dog has made a perfectly running website for the store. He looks, shocked at the dog, and finally speaks. Look, I know you have the qualifications, but well, you're a dog. The dog nudges the words, we are an equal opportunity employer, on the poster, and the manager sighs. There's no way you're bilingual. The dog looks him in the eyes and says, meow. A guy goes into a restaurant for lunch. After careful consideration, he decides he will have a bowl of the day's soup. The waiter praises him for his decision. Ah, excellent choice. The chef makes the soup fresh each day from only the freshest, locally sourced ingredients. It is completely organic, and there are no additives or preservatives. Well, it sounds delicious, the man says. I can't wait to try it. Very good, sir, the waiter says. I guarantee you will not be disappointed. A few minutes later, the waiter brings out the soup and places it in front of the man. Bon appétit, he says, and strides off. However, after a few moments, he spots the man waving him over. Yes, sir? Taste this soup, the man says. I beg your pardon? Taste the soup, the man says. Is there a problem? I cannot imagine there could be a problem. The chef is renowned for his recipes, and this soup is one of his specialties. Taste the soup, the man says again. Perhaps I should get the head waiter, the waiter says nervously. He dashes off. After a minute or two, the waiter appears with the head waiter. I understand there is a problem, he says. Taste the soup, the man says. Sir, I'll let you know we have never had a complaint in the history of this establishment. Our chef has a reputation for excellence and has, in fact, won a number of culinary awards. His work is beyond reproach. Taste the soup, the man says again. I think I need to fetch the house manager, the head waiter says, and he rushes off. He returns a few moments later with the tuxedoed house manager. What seems to be the problem? The house manager asks. Taste the soup, the man says. Monsieur, I will let you know that this establishment is among the most respected and revered in the country. The chef is brilliant, known for his innovative and imaginative recipes. He trained at the most prestigious European culinary schools, and he has won the acclaim and admiration of his peers the world over. Even questioning his abilities is a grave insult. Taste the soup, the man says again. This is outrageous. I shall call the chef himself, the house manager says, and rushes to the kitchen. A few moments later, he returns with the chef, a burly, humourless man with large hands and a red face. He glares at the man. You have something you wish to say, the chef says. Taste the soup, the man says. The chef's eyes narrow as he leans over the table. I have been the chef in this establishment for 25 years. I have prepared meals for presidents and kings. My reputation is unequalled, and every day I receive offers of employment. I can work anywhere in the world for anyone I choose. Yet you would sit here and impugn my reputation? Taste the soup, the man says. Taste the soup? Taste the soup? Good sir, I made this soup myself from a recipe that has been handed down through the generations in my family. This was my great-great-grandmother's own recipe, and it is beloved. Taste the soup, the man says. Taste the soup, taste the soup. I have never been so affronted. Taste the soup, fine. I will taste the soup. He leans across the table and stops in confusion. "But where is the spoon? You have no spoon," the chef says. "Right," the man says. A duck goes into a store and waddles up to the manager. He asks him if he sells duck food. The manager tells him no. The duck then leaves. The next day, the duck returns and asks the same question again. The manager still doesn't sell duck food. The duck leaves. The following day, the duck returns again and asks the same question. The manager says no and warns the duck that if he asks one more time, he will staple the duck's feet to the floor. The next day, the duck goes back into the store. He waddles up to the manager and asks, "Do you sell staples?" The manager tells him no. The duck then asks, "Do you sell duck food?" A young man was walking through a supermarket to pick up a few things when he noticed an old lady following him around. Thinking nothing of it, he ignored her and continued on. Finally, he went to the checkout line, but she got in front of him. "Pardon me," she said. "I'm sorry if my staring at you has made you feel uncomfortable. It's just that you look just like my son, who just died recently." "I'm very sorry," replied the young man. "Is there anything I can do for you?" "Yes," she said. "As I'm leaving, can you say goodbye, Mother? It would make me feel so much better." "Sure," answered the young man. As the old woman was leaving, he called out, "Goodbye, Mother." As he stepped up to the checkout counter, he saw that his total was $127.50. "How can that be?" he asked. "I only purchased a few things." "Your mother said that you would pay for her," said the clerk. A woman brought a very limp duck into a veterinary surgeon. As she laid her pet on the table, the vet pulled out his stethoscope and listened to the bird's chest. After a moment or two, the vet shook his head and sadly said, "I'm sorry your duck Cuddles has passed away." The distressed woman wailed, "Are you sure?" "Yes, I'm sure your duck is passed away," replied the vet. "How can you be so sure?" she protested. "I mean, you haven't done any testing on him or anything. He might just be in a coma or something." The vet rolled his eyes, turned around and left the room. He returned a few minutes later with a black Labrador retriever. As the duck's owner looked on in amazement, the dog stood on his hind legs, put his front paws on the examination table and sniffed the duck from top to bottom. He then looked up at the vet with sad eyes and shook his head. The vet patted the dog on the head and took it out of the room. A few minutes later, he returned with a cat. The cat jumped on the table and also delicately sniffed the bird from head to foot. The cat sat back on its haunches, shook its head, meowed softly, and strolled out of the room. The vet looked at the woman and said, "I'm sorry, but as I said, this is most definitely, 100% certifiably, a passed-away duck." The vet turned to his computer terminal, hit a few keys, and produced a bill which he handed to the woman. The duck's owner, still in shock, took the bill. $150, she cried. $150 just to tell me my duck has passed away. The vet shrugged. "I'm sorry. If you had just taken my word for it, the bill would have been $20. But with the lab report and the CAT scan, it's now $150. A blonde woman walks into a bank in Noisy before going on vacation and asks for a $5,000 loan. The banker asks, "Okay, miss, is there anything you would like to use as collateral?" The woman says, "Yes, of course, I'll use my Rolls-Royce." The banker, stunned, asks, "A $250,000 Rolls-Royce? Really?" The woman is completely positive. She hands over the keys as the bankers and loan officers laugh at her. They check her credentials and make sure she is the title owner. Everything checks out. They parked it in their underground garage for 2 weeks. When she comes back, she pays off the $5,000 loan as well as the £15.41 interest. The loan officer says, "Miss, we are very appreciative of your business with us, but I have one question. We looked you up and found out that you are a multi-millionaire. Why would you want to borrow $5,000? The woman replies, "Where else in New York City can I park my car for 2 weeks for only $15.41 and expect it to be there when I return?" A woman and her lover were in bed when the woman heard her husband getting back. The woman said, "Quick, rub baby powder on you and pretend to be a statue." The lover did that. The husband walked into the room. "Honey, what's this statue doing here?" he asked. "I saw that the Smiths got one, so I decided to get one as well," she replied. The husband got into bed and the woman fell asleep. A few hours later, after checking if his wife was asleep, he quietly got up, walked into the kitchen, made a sandwich and got a glass of milk, came back and went to the statue. "Here, have something to eat and drink. I stood like an idiot for 3 days at the Smiths and no one offered me anything to eat." A woman comes home early and finds her husband in bed with a girl. She is furious and threatens to kill them both. The husband says, "Believe me, darling, this is just a misunderstanding. I was driving home when I saw this young lady trying to catch a ride. So I decided to give her a lift. I ask her where she needs to go, and she tells me she wants to visit some relatives but isn't sure about their address. So I took her home so she could check our phone book. Once there, I saw her dress was pretty ragged, so I decided to give her your old dress. It's been nearly 2 years that it's been hanging in the closet and you never wore it. Then I saw her shoes were also about to fall apart, so I gave her your old shoes, which have been doing nothing but collecting dust for 3 years." Of course, she said thanks, and then asked, "Excuse me, sir, but is there anything else in this house your wife never uses?" A man sits down next to a woman at the bar. He orders a beer and notices the TV above the bar, showing the 5 o'clock news. The news is covering someone standing on the edge of a bridge, with the police trying to talk him down from jumping. The man at the bar looks to the woman next to him and says, "I bet you $10 he jumps." The woman looks at the man and says, "I'll take that bet." A few minutes go by and the man ends up jumping off the bridge. So the woman says, "Well, you were right," and slides $10 to the man at the bar. He slides the money back and tells her, "I can't in good conscience take the money. They showed this on the 4 o'clock news. Earlier, I knew he was going to jump." The woman leaves the money on the bar and replies, "Well, I saw the 4 o'clock news too, but I didn't think he would jump twice." A lady decided to give herself a big treat for her 50th birthday by staying overnight in a really nice, luxurious hotel. The following morning, she was appalled when the desk clerk gave her a bill for $250. She requested to know why the charge was too high. "It's a nice hotel, but the rooms certainly aren't worth $250 for just an overnight stay. I didn't even have breakfast," she told the clerk. The clerk clarified that $250 is the standard rate. At that point, the older lady insisted on talking with the manager. The manager showed up and explained that the hotel has an Olympic-sized pool and a huge conference center that are available for use. "But I didn't use them," the old woman said. "Well, they are here, and you could have," he replied. The manager proceeded to say that she could likewise have seen one of the in-hotel shows for which the hotel is famous. "We have the best entertainers from around the world performing here, Sebastian," he said. "But I didn't go to any of those shows," she said. The manager replied, "Well, we have them, and you could have." Regardless of what facility he recommended, the older lady would just answer, "But I didn't use it." The manager then countered with his standard reaction. After several minutes of contending with him, she chose to pay. The manager was shocked when she gave the check to him. "But madame, this check is for only $50, he said. "That is right. I charged you $200 for sleeping with me," the old lady replied. "But I didn't," the manager shouted. "Well, too bad. I was here and you could have." An American man gets married to a British woman. Before the big night, his father tells him, "Tonight I want you to carry your wife in your arms to show her that the US is a strong nation. Then I want you to throw her on the bed to show her that the US is a proud nation. And finally, I want you to take off your clothes to show her that the US is a beautiful nation." After the big night, the father asks his son, "So how was it?" Son, "Well, I carried her in my arms to show her that the US is a strong nation." Father, "Good." Son, "Then I threw her on the bed to show her that the US is a proud nation." Father, "Yeah." Son, "And then I took off my clothes to show her that the US is a beautiful nation." Father, "Very good. And then what did you do?" Son, "I off in front of her." Father, "What? Why would you do that for?" Son, "To show her that the US is a free and independent nation." A thrice-divorced woman is giving love another try. Her first love abused her with his fists. The second one ran away. The third one completely failed to go to bed. But she still feels lonely and doesn't want to stop believing in love, so she posted an ad in a newspaper with her story that she was still available. A few days later, she heard the doorbell ring. She opens up the door, and a man with no arms and no legs shows up. He says, "Hi, I saw your ad. I was hoping I could be your new boyfriend." The woman was confused. "What makes you think you're going to be better than my last three?" she inquired. "Well," he began, "I have no arms, so I won't abuse you. I have no legs, so I won't abandon or run away from you." "But how are you in bed?" she asked. And his response was, "Well, I rang the doorbell, didn't I?" A woman's on vacation and calls home. She asks her husband, "How's my cat doing?" The husband says, "The cat's passed away." The woman's upset and says, "Well, you could have broken the news to me when I got home. I cannot enjoy my vacation now. You could have just said a little witty, light the cats on the roof and you can't get her down." "Okay, I'm sorry, sir," says the husband. "I'll remember that." The woman says, "Anyway, how's my mother doing?" The husband says, "Your mother's on the roof and we can't get her down." A woman tries getting on a bus, but realizes her skirt is too tight. As the bus stopped and it was her turn to get on, she became aware that her skirt was too tight to allow her leg to come up to the height of the first step of the bus. Slightly embarrassed and with a quick smile to the driver, she reached behind her to unzip her skirt a little, thinking that this would give her enough slack to raise her leg. She tried to take the step, but only to discover that she couldn't. With a little smile to the driver, she again reached behind to unzip a little more and was unable to take the step. After becoming quite frustrated and embarrassed, she once again attempted to unzip her skirt more in order to allow more legroom to get on the first step of the bus. About this time, a large Texan who was standing behind her picked her up easily by the waist and placed her gently on the step of the bus. She went ballistic, turned to the would-be Samaritan and yelled, "How dare you touch my body? I don't even know who you are." The Texan smiled and drawled, "Well, Mom, normally I'd agree with you, but after you unzipped my fly 3 times, I kind of figured we were friends." A woman one day takes a hike around the forest by her house to take some time off from people. She stumbles upon a teapot, grabs it, and, obviously, rubs it. A guinea appears. "Hello, lady, you've released me from my trap. Now I shall grant you 3 wishes, but there is a catch. Whatever I give you, your husband will get 3 times larger." The woman looks at the genie and says, "I want $1 billion. The genie replies, "As you wish, but your husband will get 3 billion. The woman continues, "I want a beautiful castle." The genie says, "As you wish, but your husband will get 3 beautiful castles, and they will be larger than yours." The woman then stops and thinks for a moment before claiming her third and final wish and saying, "Now give me 1 little heart attack." A woman decided to have a facelift for her birthday. She spent $5,000 and felt really good about the results. On her way home, she stopped at a dress shop to look around. As she was leaving, she said to the sales clerk, "I hope you don't mind me asking, but how old do you think I am?" "About 35, he replied. "I'm actually 47, the woman said, feeling really happy. After that, she went into McDonald's, For lunch and asked the order taker the same question. He replied, "Oh, you look about 29. "I am actually 47, she said, feeling really good. While standing at the bus stop, she asked an old man the same question. He replied, "I am 85 years old, and my eyesight is going. But when I was young, there was a sure way of telling a woman's age. If I put my hand up your skirt, I will be able to tell your exact age." There was no one around, so the woman said, "What the hell?" and let him slip his hand up her skirt. After feeling around for a while, the old man said, "Okay, you are 47. Stunned, the woman said, "That was brilliant. How did you do that?" The old man replied, "I was behind you in line at McDonald's." A housewife buys a parrot from a pet store. At the counter, the cashier warns her that the parrot used to live in a brothel and picked up a lot of the language they used. She takes the parrot back to her house and puts him in a cage. The bird looks around and says, "New madame, new house." She's a little surprised but likes it nonetheless. Later, her daughters come home from school. The parrot looks at them and says, "New madame, new house, new girls." She's shocked, to say the least, but she likes the bird. After this, her husband, Dave, comes home. As soon as he walks in the door, the parrot looks over and says, "Hey, Dave." A housewife tells the maid, "Callie, you are fired." "Why, Miss Lucy?" "Because your work is getting worse. The little you do is very poorly done. Now take your money and get out of here." The maid took the money, thanked the housewife, and, before going out, took a $10 bill and threw it at the dog. The housewife said, "Well, that's what we call daring, throwing money at my dog. You know, Miss Lucy, I'm doing this because he deserves it. It's been a month since he's been the one doing the dishes." A worried housewife sprang to the telephone when it rang and listened with relief to the kindly voice in her ear. "How are you, darling?" she said. "What kind of a day are you having?" "Oh, Mother," said the woman on the phone, breaking into bitter tears. "I've had such a bad day. The baby wouldn't eat, and the washing machine broke down. I haven't had a chance to go shopping, and besides, I've just sprained my ankle, so I have to hobble around. On top of that, the house is a mess, and I'm supposed to have 2 couples for dinner tonight." The mother was shocked and was at once full of sympathy. "Oh, darling," and she said, "sit down, relax, and close your eyes. I'll be over in half an hour. I'll do your shopping, clean up the house, and cook your dinner for you. I'll feed the baby, and I'll call a repairman I know who'll be at your house to fix the washing machine promptly. Now stop crying. I'll do everything. In fact, I'll even call George at the office and tell him he ought to come home and help out for once." "George?" said the woman. "Who's George?" "Why, George, your husband. Is this 223 1374? "No, this is 223 1375. "Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I have the wrong number." There was a short pause, and the other woman said, "Does this mean you're not coming over?" A lawyer calls up a plumber to come out to his house. The plumber takes a look and says, "Okay, I can fix it today, and it will be $800. The lawyer raises an eyebrow and asks, "How long will it take?" The plumber responds, "Well, I need about an hour's round trip to the supply house for a part, and then it should take me about an hour for the repair." The lawyer smirks and says, "2 hours? For $800? That's $400 per hour. I'm a lawyer and my hourly rate is $350 hour." The plumber nods and says, "Yes, sir, I understand. Why do you think I gave up my law practice?" 2 new friends are robbing a house. One of them is upstairs, and after dropping a big lamp, he hears the home's owner get up to investigate the noise. As he gets close, the robber goes meow, imitating a cat. Then he hears the guy grumbling, "God damn it, stupid cat," and goes back to bed. When he meets his accomplice downstairs, Poe asks him what that noise was. "Hey, Sois. Dude, we almost got caught because I dropped a lamp and they woke up. Fortunately, I might say him believe it was the cat." So after a few minutes, the other robber then goes upstairs to continue checking for valuables. But he knocks over a bookshelf that crashes to the ground. He panics when he hears the homeowner getting up to investigate, so he hides in the closet. The owner enters the room and yells, "Who's there?" So the newfie in the closet answers, it's the cat." A man goes to his friend's house and knocks on the door. The wife responded and only had a towel on her. The man looks at her and says, "Is your husband here?" She said, "Yes, he's taking a bath." The man, "I'll give you $100 if you drop the towel." Wife, "You are crazy, I would never do that." The man, "I'll give you $250 if you drop it." Wife, "I told you no. What do you want?" The man, "Okay, $500. Wife thinks and says, "Okay." She drops the towel and the man gives her the $500 and tells her, "Thank you. Tell your husband I'll be back later." The wife walks in and the husband asks who it was. Wife, "It was John looking for you, but he says he's coming later." Husband, "Oh, did he give you the $500 that he owes me?" A man goes home after being at his mistress's house. However, he realized that he smelled like her perfume. So then he goes to the nearby bar, drinks a couple of glasses of whiskey, and heads home. His wife met him at the door, smelled him and told him, "You dirty pig, you can pour a gallon of perfume over yourself and I'll know that you've been drinking." A guy goes with his girlfriend to stay at her parents' house for the holidays. The couple live in the city and the parents live on a farm. The boyfriend is unused to the quiet country life, and after a couple of days, he's pretty bored. His girlfriend's father comes in and says, "Hey, young fella, if you're looking for something to do, why not take the dogs out for a bit of hunting?" There's a shotgun behind the laundry door. Guy comes back a couple of hours later, and the father says, "How was it?" "That was amazing. Have you got any more dogs?" A farmer drove over to his neighbour's house and knocked on the door. A boy, about 9, opened the door. "Is your mum or dad home?" the farmer asked the boy. "No, they went into town." The boy replied. "Well, how about your brother Howard?" the farmer asked. "No, he went with mum and dad," the boy said. The farmer stood there for a minute, shifting from one foot to another and mumbling when the boy says, "I know where the tools are. If you need to borrow one, or I could give my dad a message for you." "Well," the farmer said uncomfortably, "I wanted to talk to your dad about your brother, Howard, getting my daughter pregnant." The boy thought for a moment, then said, "You'll have to talk to my dad about that. I know he charges $500 for the bulls and $150 for the pigs, but I have no idea how much he charges for Howard." A 17-year-old boy who works part-time at Pizza Hut drives up to park in front of the house in a beautiful Porsche. Naturally, his parents know that there's no way he earned enough with his after-school job to buy such a car. "Where did you get that car?" his mum and dad screamed in shock. "I bought it today," replied the teen calmly. "With what money, young man?" his mum demands. "We know how much a Porsche costs, and you cannot afford it." "Well, it's used, and I got a good deal," says the boy. "This one cost me $20. "Who on earth would sell a car like that for $20? "The woman up the street," the boy replies. "I don't know her name, she just moved in. She ordered a pizza, and when I delivered it to her, she asked me if I wanted to buy a Porsche for $20. The boy's dad and mum hurry over to their new neighbour's house, ready to demand an explanation. Curiously, their new neighbour is calmly planting flowers in her front yard. "I'm the father of the kid you just sold a sports car to for $20, the dad says. "I need an explanation from you." "Well," the woman says, not looking up from her garden, "this morning I got a phone call from my husband. I thought he was on a business trip in Florida, but it seems he has run off to Hawaii with his secretary and doesn't intend to come back." "What on earth does that have to do with selling our son a Porsche for $20? the boy's mum asks, utterly perplexed. The new neighbour smiles very big and pauses for a minute. "Well, my husband asked me to sell his new Porsche and send him the money, so I did." A guy spots a sign outside a house that reads "Talking dog for sale." Intrigued, he walks in. "So what have you done with your life?" he asks the dog. "I've led a very full life," says the dog. "I lived in the Alps, rescuing avalanche victims. Then I served my country in Iraq. And now I spend my days reading to the residents of a retirement home." The guy is flabbergasted. He asks the dog's owner, "Why on earth would you want to get rid of an incredible dog like that?" The owner says, "Because he's a liar. He never did any of that." A beautiful woman went up to the bar in a quiet rural pub. She gestured alluringly to the bartender, who approached her immediately. The woman seductively signaled that he should bring his face closer to hers. As he did, she gently caressed his full beard. "Are you the manager?" she asked, softly stroking his face with both hands. "Actually, no," he replied. "Can you get him for me? I need to speak to him," she said, running her hands beyond his beard and into his hair. "I'm afraid I can't," breathed the bartender. "Is there anything I can do?" "Yes, I need for you to give him a message," she continued, running her forefinger across the bartender's lip, slyly popping a couple of her fingers into his mouth and allowing him to suck them gently. "What should I tell him?" the flustered bartender managed to stammer. "Tell him," she whispered, "there's no toilet paper, hand soap, or paper towels in the ladies' room. If you're still here, it means you enjoyed it. So go ahead and subscribe. You won't lose a thing, but I'll gain a wonderful friend in you.